You're up.
Hey,
Oh man, how's it going?
good.
You should
Uh,
have signed in as edgy.
yeah, I mean, it auto records for this, so
Oh, I had some questions about the hiring. Maybe if you, I'm not sure how many people are going to show up because Gretchen's out and Dan's off
yeah.
on
I
internet.
I assume maybe we'll see Dan.
Oh,
Otherwise,
but yeah,
yeah, yeah. I don't know that I know anything about the hiring. I sent a job application in.
oh no, I meant it was like I just wanted to like ask you stuff just outside of just stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
there's nothing crazy. It's just like I'm just kind of check in, just like a check in. I didn't want. I wanted you to be able to just speak freely without things being recorded.
oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, anything else done we should talk about? Will we wait to see if Dan shows up?
Um, I the data together thing yesterday was really good. I'm like still thinking about a lot of what people said. I'm
Mhm.
glad new faces showed up. Like Anna, she man, she said she only spoke like really once, but like it was like so much good information and questions, and I was just like, I need to sit with that for a while. I want to like write down what she said, like help Kelsey transcribe things and just like, like I don't know. It was interesting for me.
Yeah, I felt like what she said was like just the one thing, and it was very small, but it was like very compact. Like there was a
Yeah.
lot in that, and everybody else was like, "Oh," which I felt bad about because it was like, "Oh, there should be so much to talk about from that." But I think everybody was like, "Oh, wait, that's a hard thing to digest."
Yeah, that's what I mean. I like what you were doing with like trying to start the conversation in Slack beforehand and stuff.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to see because I had like thoughts from the previous reading group and this one too. I'm better just like writing things after the fact. It takes me a long time to digest like conversation and I didn't do much of the reading, so I was like, I'm not sure what people are talking about right now. But
Yeah,
after everybody talking about it, it's like easier to do the reading. Yeah.
it's definitely. I feel reliably like on the more academic the piece is, the more I read it too closely. And
Mm.
so like there's things I have trouble with, or like I'm too in the details, and then when we start talking about it, like it pulls me back out and I'm like, "Oh, if only I had like skimmed it first, or I'd come back and like reread it in a skimming
Yeah.
context, I feel like I would have had a much better picture of the
Yeah. Like it's like that the part that you called out at the beginning, like I wasn't sure when I was reading it if the author was actually like advocating that or just like presenting it as like an argument that he was and then because like I was just
she
skimming the recommend what's that?
she.
Oh she. Oh. I didn't know if she was actually like gonna support it or argue against it.
Hmm.
And because I was just skimming the recommended sections, I was like, I'm still not sure. So I was like, okay.
I so I had the same confusion when I first read it, and when I posted it to Slack was when I had like just read it. But I think by the end of the piece is fairly clear that she was trying to set that up to be refuted, at
Okay.
least on some level. Because
Yeah.
the whole rest of the piece is really trying to say like, well, it's relevant because it's not anachronistic, because it doesn't have to be morally overwhelming, because
Mm.
um, but it also, I feel like that whole piece took a lot of things as givens that were probably more than I would have assumed as givens.
Yeah.
But I think it's partially also because she was arguing from a like, well, if we're gonna go with the Republican view,
Hmm.
then we have to assume these things as given, because
Yeah. I was gonna
that's
say.
just like baseline republicanism.
Yeah. It's the philosophical argument, and you just argue
Yeah.
from axioms and go from there,
I feel,
right? That's what
I
Matt was
feel
saying.
like I feel like skimming the Hanahan piece, then reading. the Stanford Philosophical Encyclopedia
Yeah.
article, and then coming back and reading the Hanahan piece in more detail is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're already deeply familiar with like philosophical republicanism versus liberalism, which like I'm passingly familiar with, and so reading the Stanford article was also very helpful, although I didn't get all the way through it. But even just like the first part, everything up to and the very beginning of the like feminism part, where it like breaks down republicanism versus liberalism, and then the baseline version of the feminist critique. Like that was like, oh, okay, this helps contextualize a lot of what I read in the Hanahan piece a little bit better. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, I understand vaguely philosophical republicanism and liberalism, but like not as well as I could have. And like having that better context, I think would have enabled me to better understand some of the things both the points she was starting from and the things she was trying to get at.
Yeah, I agree. I did get to like just skim that too after I had skimmed through the Hanahan piece, and I was like, oh, this is. I was like, yeah, this would have been much better foundation to jump off from.
Yeah, you're like, wait, I read these in the wrong order. Why was this one optional?
Yeah. Okay. It's 5 past the hour. Do you want to just do whatever updates at least so we can get started there?
Sure. I mean, I'm not sure there's anything to do since we flipped to the like we should all just read the updates and not spend a lot of time saying what we wrote. Other than like this thing that's not quite in here is so still working on the Wayback import stuff. But actually started to get some more things done again this week. I think refactoring it wasn't quite as straightforward as I had hoped it would be, although I knew it wasn't really going to be, because there's so much messy, like hairball of stuff that has evolved in that script. And part of what I have to do, I think, before I can meaningfully simplify the code is to simplify what it's attempting to do first. There's like so many things that are in there that are like, well, it's breaking in all these crazy ways. What if I try and like manage the process by doing this? And then like, what if I try and manage the process by also doing this? And what if I like nest this part inside of that part, but then this other part outside of that part? How will it work then? And now that like I finally got everything working okay, it's like it's me pulling back that out like, oh, what if I don't need this thing wrapping all of that? Like, is it okay? Like, I think it should be okay based on my understanding now, but like, I don't know. So it's like, so I have a version of it that's been running for 2 days now. That's slightly simplified. And then I was seeing some weird logging, which I realized has been happening for the whole time. And I was totally befuddled by it until I realized I think it was just because there's many threads happening. There's like different buffering happening on different threads. And so the logging wasn't happening quite in order the way I thought it was. So assuming that that's the problem, like my fix should have fixed it. But we'll find out like tonight, like whether that is what happens. Because the real problem is like, in order to get the script to like have to do all the crazy fallbacks, you have to do a really big job, which means like you have to like set it to go, and it has to be enough stuff that it spends like a minimum of like half an hour running. And so it's like hard to test, both because it takes a long time to test, but because I worry like, oh, we can't just pound the Internet Archive constantly. Like that's super irresponsible. So I can't just be like, test it, oh, make a tweak, test it for half an hour again, because it's half an hour of like 35 threads being like, Internet Archive, give me everything you can as fast as you can. So anyway, that's the status update there.
So the script, I mean, you're running it. It's just the code isn't merged in, right? Because we're getting data. So okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of, part of me is like, this is dumb. I should just merge this branch because it's what we're running. That branch is what we're running in production.
Yeah.
But it's not what we're. Yeah, it's not what we're running in production for the health check. Like the health check is actually the master branch. And I want the opportunity to like make what we merge sane rather than having a whole bunch of like random merges later where I just like fix
Yeah.
little dumb things that never should have been merged in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's why I've left it on the branch. Although, like, I agree, it's a little weird that like there's this long-lived branch that's running in production that's not master, and there's like invisible pile of code that's happening that if somebody's not like totally in the weeds on this project doesn't even realize is occurring.
I'm gonna switch real fast, so I'm leave it over here.
Okay, is that you that signed in as?
Yeah, as I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, do I have it? I don't think I have any updates other than we hadn't we you know you were part of the that kind of training session and then project discussion, and I need to just check in with Kelsey again if because she's been the contact with Eloisa, so I was like, oh, I don't want to like get in the middle of that, but I remember this morning, it's like, oh, we didn't reschedule anything with Eloisa, and then Gretchen went on maternity leave, so I was like, kind of like in limbo right now. So, but I know the last thing Kelsey said was that Eloisa was trying to just run the project. So I'm curious how if she was successful or not.
Right.
So we'll see. So I'll ping Kelsey and see if she can just like check in on Eloisa and see how that's going. Then Gretchen and also there was like these two new people. I think did she talk about this with like the two new people, and then Kelsey and I were gonna take one and kind of onboard each person.
I remember something vaguely to that effect.
Yeah. So she might have talked about that at the analyst meetings, but
yeah, I think that's where I was hearing.
So I think originally Gretchen was supposed to introduce like us to these people, but again, because she's off, I think we might just try to like contact them directly. Because she did sit down and talk to them already, so I imagine they know kind of what's going on. So I'm gonna reach out to Alejandro and the other person after her. Anything else? There was like one more thing I forgot. That's okay.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Seems reasonable. I think there's more than a couple things that are a little bit in the air with everybody trying to catch them since Gretchen had to leave a little earlier than she expected.
Okay. Oh, waffle replacements. I'm curious about that because somebody was pinging about that on Data Together, and I was like, weird.
I made that. I had a day where I like spent time gathering all the possibilities and like looking really briefly at them, and I made that issue which like lists them out. I have a friend who has similarly been trying to do a whole lot of things with GitHub projects, the built-in thing, and trying to write like actions and workflow stuff to make them a little bit more manageable. And his experience is like being his rubber ducky, like listening to all the things that seem super broken just sort of makes me feel like I don't feel like GitHub projects are really a great solution. It seems like from just reading around more that ZenHub is probably the way to go. It's the most straightforwardly similar thing that doesn't like pile on a whole bunch of other project management stuff for you. Like everything else is like a project management tool within which like the basic things we need are embedded. So that's what I'm thinking, but I haven't really come back around to investigate any of these in much more depth.
I mean, I know you said you use it kind of personally, and we tried with like Ray at some of the old meetings, but like I'm not sure.
not to say it's not useful, but I'm like, how do I make use of it? Because I haven't. So that's the question.
Well, that's also fair, right? Like if it's only me, then it's only me, and that's fine. It's 100% personal decision.
Yeah.
And I think like if we had a whole bunch of people working on the technical side of this project again, and then we wanted to have somebody just help organize those people, then like they should also feel free at any point to use whatever tool works well for them. I guess I don't feel like anything about Waffle is a requirement for people, which is also why I appreciated that Waffle both reacts to actions happening in GitHub and triggers actions in GitHub based on what you do. So like if people aren't using Waffle, I still get the benefit of like Waffle making sense.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't fall out of sync in some crazy way.
Yeah. That's
So I don't know. It's a useful organizational tool for me. I don't think anybody else has to use it. I just put the link there in case people want to.
Yeah. Well, I should look at it more. I mean, if it's useful for you, I feel like, well, I haven't been involved in technical side for a really long time, so that's one of the other reasons. But, like if it's part of your workflow and then other people, if we're able to get more people on, hopefully just, it'd be helpful if it becomes part of their workflow, maybe. I don't know if it's, or it might be too much, but.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, it only really, its main utility for me is the fact that we have code split across all these repos, and we'll probably have it split across more since I'm starting to feel more and more like, I have long felt like processing needs to be broken up a little bit, right? But like, I think contrary to the earlier ways I thought it should be broken up, based on like a whole bunch of discussions I've seen on the Wayback Slack, I feel like it would be super useful for us to break out that part, finish it. Yeah. And so I think that is shorter, nearer term than I originally thought. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Point is, it's useful. It's most useful for me in bringing together a clear picture, like across all the different repos.
That makes sense.
Because I can see those issues from everywhere as if they were one set of things, and they move across the same set of processes. Because there's often things that have to happen across multiple repos, like the Kubernetes cron job config stuff that that Jonathan's been working on a little bit, and it's much easier to see what's going on when you can see the issue that's in ops and the issue that's in processing, like moving along together.
That makes sense. Is it Waffle that's the thing that's like automatically putting things like in process and ready and kind of like stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering where that was coming from. I thought it was like a script you set up or something in GitHub.
I mean, it effectively is, but that script is Waffle.
Okay.
Just sort of like Waffle keeps, one of the things it does to keep things in sync is to say that the columns in Waffle that aren't tied to like an otherwise meaningful built-in state change of something in GitHub, so like a PR being closed, are tied to labels. And so like every column has a label, and moving it between columns changes the labels that are applied. Which is a real sensible way to do it. So that's what you're saying there, right? Like those labels switch when the columns move.
That makes sense.
And it's helpful for me to be able to have a way to say like, oh, these things are like important things, but they're sort of like the icebox deep backlog of like stuff that I haven't figured out how to prioritize. And then these are the things that like are very ready for somebody to do. Like it's clear what needs to happen, or they're like highly prioritized. And then like, these are the things that people are working on, so that I can at any time like look at that and be like, oh, like so-and-so is still like on this thing, or no action has happened on this thing.
Is ZenHub, they have like a free kind of like, if you have, do they have like a kind of free plan?
I think so. Okay. I think they're like Waffle, where it's like free for open source repos, but I'm not.
Yeah. Like if your repo is not private, is a public repo, then they're okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, public repos, unlimited free users.
Cool.
That's what it says.
That sounds like a go-to thing.
I mean,
you might want to just.
I have conflicted feelings about that, right? Like it makes it easy, but I also feel like that's the thing that drives a lot of these products into the ground.
What do you mean drives them into the ground?
What I mean, because I have very little doubt that like Waffle and probably also ZenHub like has so much more data and traffic and stuff happening in their system that they don't charge anybody for because they're like public repos than private ones. And so that drives the cost they have to charge for the private ones up a little bit, or if there's still probably a low ceiling on those costs, right? And so if they can't drive them any higher, then they're stuck in a position where like revenue is hard because they're not actually charging people for the costs they're incurring.
Yeah. Something to think.
So then you have like Waffle, where eventually they just get acquired by somebody else, and then everything changes.
Yeah.
You know, like they're like, well, we're acquired and we're also shutting down. Right?
Yeah.
We're just going to be integrated into this larger 4Pay product.
That's what happened with Purio too.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like when I looked at the history, it's like, oh yeah, it just goes into this giant paid suite for like enterprises.
Yep.
It's a cool thing that like everybody could use is like now only like usable by like a giant corporation.
Yeah. And I mean, having more users paying doesn't necessarily mean that's not going to happen. I guess it means you should, as a business, feel less like you're stuck in a position where you don't have any other options than to sell yourself.
Yeah. Money game is so terrible. Cool. I think that's all. If you have some time to stick on, I just want to like chat, kind of like, catch up and check in. I can stop the recording. I don't think there's anything. Is there anything else? Okay.